The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericahealth.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Welcome to The Power to Create Yourself with Ross Ramin. If you or someone you are close to is dealing with addiction, there are so many programs out there that can help you. But how do you gauge which ones are going to work the best for you? Some are expensive, some deal with some of the issues, but don't get to the heart of the matter. Others treat the problem at a basic level, but don't determine ultimate success. Join us now for an hour that sets out to be truly groundbreaking and will help you discover how to find the best program for your addiction problem. Now, here is Ross Ramin.
Hi, welcome to the show. My name is Ross Ramin, and this is The Power to Create Yourself. We are coming to you today from Los Angeles, California, at the Rebos Treatment Center, and we're happy to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a great show for you today. We have the world-famous interventionist, Ken Seeley. Ken, I hope I didn't make your head too big by saying that. You're so fancy. When I go to the airport with you, everybody knows who you are. But anyway, well, thanks for joining us, Ken.
No, thank you for having me, Ross. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it's an honor to have you on here. Ken, you and we met 4 years ago at a conference here in Los Angeles, and we were on a panel together, and then our paths didn't really cross for a few years, and then we reconnected in June, and I did one of your trainings, and I know you do a lot of those over the course of the year, and I was so impressed by how you handled yourself and the other people that were in the room, and just how you described your vision for treatment and what it was going to be. You know, in this industry, and I guess every industry, you know, you hear about other people and you kind of get little tidbits of who they are or who they're not. And then once you actually get them in front of you and you listen to them over 2 days when we were out in Palm Springs, you shine a light on this industry that I don't hear every day. And that's a lot what this radio show is really about. I want people to understand what's really out there. There's so much stuff that we hear on a day-to-day basis, the nightmares of this treatment industry, what's going on, and probably the bigger fact of what's not going on. So I wanted to start from the beginning is, where do you see treatment right now? What's going on with it? What are your likes? What are your dislikes with it?
Well, first of all, I'm just, grateful that we did reconnect again this past summer, because I love your vision and what you see to happen in the future around recovery, and the treatment industry, because as we all know, there's so many things going on out there that are just so shady, and we have to really set ourselves apart from the people doing that stuff, because the general public, it's heartbreaking. They don't know, they don't know what's shady and what's not shady. They just, have the highest bidder on Google or wherever they do their marketing, and they jump into that treatment facility and everything gets destroyed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
really that's for doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, it's the one thing that I always find. It's funny, you bring up the Google searches and all that, and it's people have no idea. They call me up, they're like, every website says the exact same thing, and what's going on? And you really have to lay it out to them, like, this is what we do. And they're like, well, I talked to Susie Q down the road, and they say they do the same thing as you. And it's so difficult to talk to these families when they're in such crisis. And it's like, this is why, I'll never say that a place is not as good as mine, but I will. I'll always say that, their place is fine, but this is why I think mine is better. I try to stay as clean as I can with it, but also really trying to press people. How do you do that when you do your interventions? You do them, privately. You're obviously on A&E, doing them very publicly. How do you do your interventions? I mean, people don't understand really what you do. People are constantly asking me, Ross, my son, my husband, my wife, my golden retriever, whoever it is in crisis right now. How do we get the family? Their dog is cussing them out, literally. How do you do what you do? How does an intervention work properly?
Well, really, it's not about an intervention on the addict. It's an intervention on the family system, because what they've been doing and supporting the addiction is killing their loved one. And my job is to get them aware of that. And it's hard because, they're not the one using, they're not the one doing the drugs or drinking, and yet they're the ones that are enabling and supporting it. And if they were able to put a line in the sand and stop enabling, they'd get a different result. So it's really, really complicated. It takes 4 to 8 hours, on a pre-intervention to really help them understand what an intervention is, because, I always say I'm not intervening on them. Anybody could get somebody to treatment. That's an easy job. But getting the family system into recovery, that's the hard job.
You're saying a pre-intervention before even that loved one who actually has who's the addict or the alcoholic. You're talking pre-intervention with the actual loved ones. You're meeting with them privately, correct?
Yeah, we all meet the night before, the day before, and we spend 4 to 8 hours, and we brainstorm together on what's going to be a motivator to get them not only in recovery, but to stay in recovery. And then the same thing is, who's the key enabler? And then we pretty much intervene on the key enabler and create what their motivator is and figure out how to get them to get into recovery, because, you take a leper to a leper colony, out of a leper colony, and treat them and get them better, and then they throw them back into a leper colony, they're going to get leprosy again. I mean, that's the same thing. If we don't treat these people, the whole family system, there's no way that how do you expect them to get better if, they go away for 30, 60 days, and then you expect them, come home and you're cured? There is no cure for this disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That process alone, at least I've found, getting somebody into treatment is kind of easy. Talking with these moms or these dads, the moms are tough because they just have so much love, and they think they're loving their son, their daughter, even their husbands at times, so much to let them go. Is there a common denominator that you found over the years that people can always, that you can you're gonna go to? That's like, this is what's definitely happening, and how you have to, I don't want to say flip it on them, but I guess kind of flip it on them. Is there a common denominator you find?
Yeah, I think that it's really hard because, like you said, those enabling moms, and they hate that word, but the reality is that you could either support recovery or you could support the disease, and you can't, it's like I always explain to them, you can't be half pregnant. You're either on one side or the other. So which side are you going to pick? And when you explain it to them that way, it's really, really hard for them to get it. It's just like they feel like enabling is love and nurturing. In all reality, it's a death sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. So how do you explain, one of my questions I love to ask people is, what is an addict? What is an alcoholic? Because what I've seen is, I've talked to people with, that got sober 40 years ago, and it's funny of what is an addict 40 years ago and what an addict is now, especially with all the drugs that are out now, these pills. I know you have your treatment center out in the desert. I don't know. I probably do know, just because it's kind of the common theme. Family doctors are lighting these families up on these prescription drugs, and they don't look at themselves as an addict. They look at themselves as following doctor's orders. With the difference being where I was almost self-inflicted. I was in high school. I bought a bag of weed because I wanted to hang out with those girls, and I wanted to hang out with those guys, and I wanted to go to those parties. And it was like I kind of did it to myself. How do you explain what that is? Is there a difference, do you believe, between the two?
For the disease mind, absolutely. But in all reality, the disease is the disease. It's been ignited because, that bag of weed could have ignited it. It opened up that gene that, sparks up the addiction, or that pill that was prescribed is what ignited it and opened up that gene and sparked the addiction. So really how it's opened up doesn't really matter, but the reality is when you open it up with a prescription that's written from a doctor and you're following doctor's orders, it makes it a lot harder to tell the disease mind that it's a choice. I'm following recommendations. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. So it's not a choice. I'm doing this because I'm in pain. But in all reality, they ignite the gene and boom, the disease kicks in. And it's the same result as the pot head that, like you said, buying a bag of weed, that's how I started. Then goes into the next thing and the next thing, and the pills turn into heroin. And, well, you know the story.
Yeah. No, it's just a total, just goes downhill extremely quickly. It's so difficult for me, in our staff here. It's when we get these clients and I get these middle-aged women, middle-aged men, and they're just, I'm just doing the doctor's orders, and then they see this 22-year-old who's been sticking a needle in his arm, on purpose, doing, just because that's what he wants to do, because he has, either social anxieties or that's, peer pressure, either the peer pressure that he's put on himself to be in these groups, these social groups. And then you get these middle-aged people that are, they fall into it by accident, and then you got to sell them on the whole thing. You didn't mean to do this, but you are an addict. It's hard to get them to go to do their aftercare because they think it's just a switch. That's okay. Well, I didn't do it for the same reason as that 22-year-old did. They obviously have underlying issues. My underlying issue was my family doctor didn't know better. It's excruciating to get them over that hump. It's a mindset that you have to tackle. It's beyond the addiction.
Yeah, you have to take it to the next level. You have to take it to the level of, okay, here's the disease, and, let's go back and do a genogram. Let's look through your family tree and find out who else is addicted. Is there somebody, that has a work addiction, a food addiction, a sex addiction, a gambling addiction, drug or alcohol addiction? Let's do a genogram and point out to them that it doesn't matter which one you're doing. If it's pills or if it's, street drugs, it doesn't matter. And the way I kind of like to work with my clients on that is that when you're trying to, work with them and help them understand that it's a choice. If I was going to the doctor and I'm not an addict and I went to go get pain meds, I would say my experience has been people that take those pain meds, they're like, oh, my God, I hate the way they make me feel. I'm never going to take them again. But an addict's like, oh, my God, get me more. That's the difference is if you're not an addict, you could take it or leave it. The pain dissipates and, the surgery's over or, you get your back readjusted or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And then you move on. You're not addicted. But it's just like the alcoholic. You take one drink and then it tastes so good because you're numbing something. If you look at the family tree, there's been some trauma somewhere, and the family system has the disease in the system, and then it came down to you, and then a trauma has ignited that and opened it, and now you're in complete disease mode. So that if you could explain it to them that way instead of saying, here's the difference of the heroin addicts shooting their arms or necks of injections, and here's the person that's taking a prescription from the doctor. You look at it the other way and say, look at the family tree. Is addiction in your family? Yeah.
No, that's a great way to put it. I'm actually going to steal that from you because I've never laid it out to somebody as simple as that. It's, my wife, she broke her back in 6 spots. She just does not like those pain pills, when she got out of the ER and all that kind of stuff. And she took it because she couldn't see straight without it. But like her body rejected it. She rejected it. It just didn't taste good. It's like a vegetarian having a steak. Like
Yeah.
I need to eat. I have to have this because there's no other food anywhere. I'm on this desert island. But she just did not want it. It was an option because that's what it was there. But for me, if I took it, I mean, the first time I had cocaine, it was like, this is the sexiest thing I have ever done. I mean, it was instant, absolutely instant. No, that's perfect. That's exactly what it is. Ken, we're going to run to a quick break right now, and then I want to jump in, and I want to ask you how you got involved in interventions. Where did this start from? So we'll be right back. Thanks for joining us. This is The Power to Create Yourself. I'm Ross Ramin. We're on with Ken Seeley, the interventionist who's on A&E. You can find Ken at kenseeley.com, and we'll be right back.
Find out what's happening on the Voice America Talk Radio Network by keeping up with us on Twitter. You can find us at Voice America TRN.
Getting sober isn't just about not drinking and not doing drugs. It's a way of life. At Rebos, we have a team of talented professionals, each with their own clear and distinct message to walk clients from the darkest point in their lives out into the light. Rebos offers a carefully curated selection of groups and workshops in addition to a minimum of 6 individual sessions per week. At Rebos, we believe there are no cookie-cutter clients, and we meet every individual where they are at today. It's not a Rebos program, it's your program. Our team wants to help as many people as possible become who they want to be. And if you don't know who you want to be, we'll help you. Visit RebosTreatment.com to learn more about the Rebos Treatment Center. That's REBOS Treatment.com.
Have you friended us on Facebook yet?
Why not?
Just go to Facebook.com/Voice America or search for the keywords Voice America. Once you are part of our Facebook network, you'll receive daily messages about what's happening with our shows, this week's featured guests, and new happenings at the Voice America Talk Radio Network. And you can add your voice to the always active discussions on our timeline. Just go to Facebook.com/Voice America or search for Voice America.
You are listening to The Power to Create Yourself with Ross Ramin. To find out more about Ross and the program, visit the Rebos Treatment Center website at RebosTreatment.com. Now, back to The Power to Create Yourself.
Hi, welcome back. This is Ross Ramin, and thanks for joining us. We have Ken Seeley with us today. Ken Seeley is the famous interventionist from A&E. Does a lot of he owns a treatment center out in Palm Springs, does a lot of amazing work that I have found getting to know him, really on the cutting edge. Ken, thanks for coming back with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you got it, buddy. Ken, how did this whole phenomenon start with you? And not really the show. I mean, the show is one thing, but doing interventions, how did you get going with it, and how did you know that you're so good at it?
Well, I think it was like in 2099, so 16, 17 years ago, when I had 10 years sober. I didn't work in the field until I had 10 years sober. And when I had 10 years sober, I went to work at a treatment center answering phone calls. And when people were calling back then, they would be like, how do I get my son in? How do I get my husband in? And I was like, oh, it's like a 12-step call. Anybody could do that. And they used to call me AA squared. I'd always be around the program, people in recovery. So I said, oh, that's easy. I could talk somebody into going to treatment. So I talked to his family, and I said, I'll be right over. And I drove down to somewhere in Orange County, I can't remember where for my first intervention. And I go in, and it was a Middle Eastern family, and the son was in the bedroom with a locked door doing crystal meth in psychosis, and he had a gun. And the parents were like, just get him out of there. Take him away. We need help. And I'm like...
yeah, sure, no problem. We'll be right out.
And he has a what?
No problem.
Gun? Sure. This is going to be perfect.
5 minutes. I'll be right out.
So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So he ran out the back door, got in the garage. He had a BMW convertible. He jumped in his car, and I went into the garage, and he locked himself in the car, and he's trying to hit the garage door opener and broke it. So after he sat there for a while, and I was like, calm down, I'm here to help you, trying to do my 12-step call, he put it in reverse and went through the door. The door ended up on top of his convertible. Oh. And it was just a nightmare. The police were coming with helicopters trying to chase him down. So it got a little out of control.
So that
was I was over my head.
Yeah, to say you were over your head. Holy smokes. So that's how you broke your teeth, so to say, on doing interventions. What, did you get that guy into treatment?
Oh God, no! He was off and running. I didn't have the skills. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought it was a 12-step call. I would only charge the family $500, but it was the worst nightmare that I ever. And I didn't know what it was. And then I realized that there was a career in this, so I went to took courses on intervention down in Irvine. Then I went to UCLA and took some courses there, and then I went to Randy McGraw, who's, he passed away, but he was really well known to do interventions. I did his training. I went with Ed Storty, John Southworth. I just surrounded myself around all the best out there and learned from the best and did everything possible to really understand it. And I think the reason why I'm so good at it is because I understand the pain where the addict's at, where they really are in misery. Nobody's happy really using. They say they are, they think they are, but deep down inside, they know something isn't right. And then the family member, that misery that they're in, that pain that they're in, just feeling like there's nothing left for them to do, and have the empathy for them and really get down in there and feel that with them. And then from there, gently take them out of that darkness.
I would imagine, I know when I talk to people, I almost have to kind of go back to where I was. I almost have to crawl back down into that hole that I was in to really, you almost kind of have to just, at least I do. I get, it's almost like you kind of just sit down in their hole that they have, dug for themselves, and you kind of sit in there and you just kind of talk shop. It's not I don't know how else to say it. You almost have to get down in their dirty bathwater and just you sit with them. I don't know how else you do that. To earn their trust, that you're not talking down to them, you're not pointing your finger at them, that you have to be firm though, correct?
Yep.
You can't be moving in any direction, but you also can show a heck of a lot of compassion. People must, obviously you've become a pretty well-known guy. When you do these interventions and you meet with the family, it's one thing, but when you walk into the room with that client, their jaw must hit the ground. I've had an intervention done on me, and I knew what was happening when I walked into my living room, but when you see Ken Seeley sitting across the room for you, people must be like, oh man, I've really done it this time. I got Ken Seeley in my living room. This is not good. When they see you do that, that's a kind of an interesting point though. If you come into that intervention and they see you, because obviously you become a pretty well-known guy, do they fold right away, and do you grab them and just go, if they're willing to go right now, go? Or what is your plan for that family as you sit in that intervention? I've seen what you do on TV before, but is there do you still go through with the whole process, or hey, if Johnny is ready to roll, do you spend the extra 30 minutes to go through things with the family and do it out, or do you just go?
No. I make sure everybody gets the full advantage of the process because, even if they say, okay, I'll go, or mostly they'll say, I know you, I know what this is, I'm not going anywhere. Oh, great. Then can you just give us 5 minutes? Let's just sit down and talk. And then I always, or if they were to say, I'm going, okay, well, good, I'm so grateful that you're going. Can you at least give your family a few minutes and give them the respect that they deserve for putting all of this together and tell you how much they love you? And I do that for two reasons. The first reason is because I want them to hear that it's done out of love and they're not angry with them. They care about them and they don't want to lose them dying from this disease, as 144 people are dying every day in this country, and they don't want to be a statistic. So that's the first reason. And the second reason I have them read it is because I want them to know what the family's bottom lines are going to be. And I want them to hear it from the family so they could really experience what's going to happen if they choose to leave treatment or not be non-compliant in treatment. I want them to hear it firsthand versus them reading a letter while they're in treatment and saying, this is what's going to happen if you get home.
Yeah. No, I think it shows a proper respect towards the family, too, and I think it just also reiterates, just such a valuable component that these families are for the long-term success. Just for these, it's just such a, I was talking with another psychologist, and they were saying that if the family's involved, the success rating is in the upper double digits. Could be over 70%, just by having just the family involved in it. And if you bring both of the parents into it, it even goes up another 10 points, just by everybody being on the same page. Just by what do you do?
Amazing.
But there's so much to this treatment industry that is so much common sense that is just not being done, in the sense of how you give treatment and then actually how you just get sober. It's so mind-blowing to me that there's just common sense when it comes to this, but it's amazing what common sense, we just as human beings are able to grab onto, and what we choose not to. It's like you see a flame coming off, the stove as a kid, your head, I don't know, I don't know why, but your head's just like, don't touch that pretty orange and blue flame. Don't do it. But it's like you hear since you've been since a tiny kid in grade school, and you got that cop dressed up as the dog. He's coming over telling you drugs are bad and don't do this. But when somebody puts a weed pipe in front of you, or a crack pipe, or why don't you stick this needle in your arm by this other 15-year-old person who's going to help do this for you, it's like, oh, that seems logical. We'll go do that.
Yep.
It's just the biggest mystery on the planet. It's mind-blowing.
Well, that's how you know it's a mind disease, because, no matter what, the consequences out there, but no matter what, it numbs that pain of some form of trauma that you've experienced in your life, and you finally feel relief. So no matter what they tell you, when you feel that sense of relief, you want more and you want more and you want more. You're not going to stop until you can totally numb that out. And I was a speed freak. I liked crystal meth, so my drug of choice was to keep going, but I was still numbed out. I wasn't feeling the traumas or the experiences that happened to me in my past. I was just numbing myself out just to keep going. And you tell everybody it's fun, and you just don't know how to handle your drugs, and you have all these reasonings of why it works. But in all reality, you're just numbing some form of pain.
Yeah. It's weird that what you do, what I do is, we essentially are selling people on a better life, or a life that they deserve, because, they've had, as I always say to clients when I speak to them, is your mind got hijacked at some point, twice, usually by an underlying issue, and then you hijacked it again, once you picked up drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever the addiction is. You've hijacked it again, and you have to sell them on a peaceful life with blue skies and, butterflies and just no drama. And man, they just don't, they're just like, nope, I'm not doing it. It's just like, it's such a hard sell, but you can give